Thank you for hopping on. I know your time is so precious, so I will make this very brief so you can get an overview of this really cool, super new technology called eGlass. It's actually not so new. There is a college professor that started messing around with this concept many years ago. And at one point it was called Learning Glass, and it's gone through many iterations, but they were able to partner with a very popular ed tech company called Hovercam. And so eGlass has sort of made its entrance in the last year or so. Thank you. I believe you're all sort of K-12 classroom teachers, so I imagine during the question answer session, we'll probably get a wide range of questions, and I'm happy to stay on as long as you all have today. And if you're watching the replay of this, of course, happy to answer any questions, maybe filter those through Angie, and she can send them my way as her and I are connected on email quite closely. So this is eGlass, and I have two cameras up here right now. My camera B is actually showing me sitting, that's my phone over there in my office, and I am down in my basement. You can see I have missing ceiling panels and all that kind of fun stuff that everybody has in their stinky old basement. I'm on a 4-foot folding table that I bought at Menards for like $30. It's a small plastic, but it's thick, it's good. And it folds up. So if you ever needed to put your eGlass away, you certainly could just fold up shop. You're seeing my water bottle in the way there. This is the base of eGlass, and it's very sturdy. It has screws on the side and it holds the glass panel. And this is the glass panel. You can see me on both screens touching it. This is a 35-inch glass panel. There's also a 50-inch. Most people have said the 35-inch is quite sufficient for them. We've heard the most requests for 50-inch from math teachers. We call it real estate. They want a little bit more space to do their thing. Okay. So I'm just talking about the device itself now. Down here, if I have a third camera, I would have it here on the panel. I have lots of controls. I have, not a lot, I have like 7 different things I can push. This is the instructor lights. So you can see the LED light panel around here is going on and off, and I can make it higher and I can make it lower. I also have glass lights. Glass lights turn this on. So in the case that I'm using a different type of marker, it's going to show up differently. And this is just a regular Expo, but it's called a neon. It's a dry erase marker. And the other markers, you can just use regular Expo markers. This isn't showing up very well because my kid likes to use this and left the cap off that marker. So I don't recommend that, but you can see the other markers showing up here as well. Now the background matters too. I'm on a white wall, but if I pinned up some kind of black background, or I could paint my wall black. I haven't done that to this point. But if I pinned this up, and I'm just going to hold it up, you can see how the marker disappeared. That was the black marker on the white board with the white background. And now the highlight, the neon marker really pops there. So it's your preference. If you put up a piece of fabric, you can take it up or put it down depending on what you're doing. So you've got some options there. The other thing on my panels here is exposure. This really, you see I'm too hot. It really brightens me up, and this decreases. So that's just a functionality thing. You'll find your best light in your particular situation. I have a record button. I have a pause button, a stop button, and a snap. I can snap the picture of what I'm doing. And that can be used for all kinds of different sort of teaching situations. Okay. The other thing I want to show you is this. This right here is actually a whole piece called a hood. It's a fabric piece, and I have the hood on because I have a window in my basement. Right across from here is a window. So I'm going to get up and show you. I'm going to take the hood off for you. Now, not everybody needs a hood. Depends on your lighting, on your situation, on your room. One of the things you can do is twist and turn your board or your setup or your table. There's lots of different options there, lots of different things you can do to get rid of that. But can you see this right here? That's the glare from the the window in my basement. And I also have overhead lighting. So as you can imagine, depending on where you are in your home, or maybe you've got like a more of a classroom setup where there's like a wall of windows, whatever, you can adjust by using the hood, or you can take it off. Now, the other thing I haven't shown you yet is how my computer is set up. This is my main laptop that I use for all my everyday work. And I have it hooked in because it's got all my stuff on it, right? Like if you're a teacher, you've got your PowerPoints and your PDFs and all that. So you likely will use your main computer as your eGlass computer, but you wouldn't have to if you had a secondary laptop. You certainly could leave that set up all the time, as long as all your stuff was accessible to you. Now I'm going to lift this up for a second. Blocking the camera. This has an arm on here, and that's the camera, that round piece over there. And I can adjust it. Of course, I'm on the wrong side of the glass right now. But if I come over here, I can adjust the camera to also help me with my lighting and my setup. This is the height that it is. So depending on your laptop, you kind of have to like push your screen up or back. You can see now I've blocked the camera a little bit. So I've had to find just the right setting. Also comes with eGlass is a laptop stand, because you can put your laptop over here, but you know, it works better if it's right in front of the camera, because then when you're looking at your screen, you're also looking at the camera and you're getting better engagement. And we'll talk about engagement in a second. Lastly, I have a mouse and a keyboard that allow me to access my laptop stuff. It's separate. Mine are old school, they're plug-in, but you could certainly get a wireless keyboard and a wireless mouse. They sell them like in 2 packs on Amazon for like $20. So that would be an option there. And the simplicity of eGlass is what I love. It is literally just one USB cord. And then of course it's plugged into the power cord. So you don't need any other fancy cord or equipment. I'm going to put the hood back on, because I'm going to get rid of that glare and show you also how easy it is. If I can get it right. It's just little L brackets that rest right over the frame. Okay, I'm coming back. So there we go. I've got a pretty tight setup here. I use this office down here for multiple things. So I'm literally in a corner. So you don't need a lot of space for pulling this off. Okay.
So Lindsay, is there any way we can see the setup? Like the last demo, I know he had a camera where we could actually see the setup, like what it looks like.
I'm not sure. You can't see. I have 2 things pinned right now. I have me pinned, and I have let me unpin me. That whole time
actually they're saying they see it. I'm not seeing. I'm only seeing the one. There's another window.
Okay, Melissa, thank you for chiming in. Melissa said there is another window and she can see it. I just unpinned me talking, and I still have pinned my setup. Is that okay?
Yeah, as long as they can see it, that's good. I don't know why.
Let me see. I got another.
I'm not seeing it.
Put it in.
I'll change my view. I'll change my view.
All the participants. Okay. Okay.
Got it.
Okay. So hopefully most of you could see that, and if you couldn't, I'm so sorry. Maybe the recording caught it, maybe not. Technology is so good when it works. All right. So I'm going to add this pin back in. No. Okay. Any questions? Anybody want to unmute and ask a question just about the logistics, the setup? Anything about that? Okay. Let's talk about how this works in terms of like, what is the research? So when we talk about engagement with students, and you guys don't have the sort of student in your classroom aspect in addition to your online presence, and some teachers, we have to talk about both of those things. So this simplifies this a little bit. But when we talk about engagement, there's some science to what is going on, like with your view. So one of the things that has to do with the science of engagement is gaze. If you think about people walking down a street, right, like in New York City, and someone looks up and says, whoa, you know, everyone looks to that thing. So you can imagine here with the eGlass, when you're bringing up your content, whatever that may be, you're going to have the same thing, right? Like where you're looking becomes very important, and the students can see where you're looking. This does not require you to sort of like turn around anymore, right? Like as if you were writing on a board over here and they can't hear you or see you. So that's an interesting sort of science thing about engagement. Another one is gesture. When we point to something or when we talk with our hands, that's a form of communication. And it shows that something's important. It brings the attention to that very specific thing. And so we can do that here on this kind of light board presentation board. Okay. Highlighting, underlining, you guys, your teachers, you know, you already do all those things every day. Lastly, the science on engagement says it's very important to be able to see people's facial expressions. And let's think about that with school. I taught Spanish. When you're speaking in a foreign language, you have certain things, right? Like you're animated. And so your attention, your energy, everything is sort of associated with your facial expressions and your tone as well. So not only can the students hear your tone, but they can see your facial expressions as well. So that's very important. Same with like literature, poetry, those kinds of things, just, right? They're really important. Side note, we've had a lot of interest in eGlass from deaf schools. And that kind of plays into this idea, right? That students can not only hear the teacher, well, they can't hear the teacher, excuse me, but they can see the teacher, they can see the signing that the teacher is doing, and they can also read the lips and see the facial expression. So you can see sort of the power of that. So the coolest thing about eGlass is the software that comes with it. And the software is on version 2. So if I flub a little bit here, it's because version 2 was just released a couple of weeks ago. And what this allows us to do is to bring in any media that we want onto the screen. And so I can push browser here, and I can bring up a web browser. I can make it bigger. I can make it smaller. I can point to it. I can move it around. And I can bring up whatever, you know, something on Google Images, a picture of a cell or what have you. Let's take a look at a cell. Okay, and you can bring this up, and you can also make it transparent. So when I move this window, and again, give me a minute here if I'm not in the, here I am. I can refer to this. I can write on the board. I can also bring in some other writing tools, annotation tools on here so that I can make some impact and talk about that item while I'm using it. Okay, I just went to transparent mode, which is a really cool new feature as well. Okay, I can also bring in any media. So I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to bring in an eGlass video, and I can move and change this. I can pull this over here. I'm going to scoot over a little bit. It takes, I'm going to be honest, I've been using eGlass for like about 3 or 4 months. It takes a little getting used to, right? You have to adjust. You have to, if like I'm left-handed, so more comfortable on one side or the other, bringing in what you're talking about and being able to highlight it. This is just my web browser, and I've got my video up here that I'm going to play for my students. And what is going on here? Give me a second. Here we go. eGlass software for PC and Mac. So eGlass Fusion blends your face and physical ink. The reason I'm bringing up this video is because it's showing you some of those cool features that we were just talking about.
Seamlessly integrated into your Lightboard lesson without any modification. Let's say I'm a math teacher and I have a lesson in Google Slides.
Okay, so here's a great example. This teacher is bringing in their Google Slides, and not only can I just show what I'm doing, but I can also interact and edit while it's happening, right? And that's one of the tools there. I'm not using my pen to write on the board, but I'm using one of the writing tools in eGlass. Okay, any place you have your stuff, you can bring it in. So Google Docs, PowerPoint, PDFs, whatever. Okay, this is called the Chameleon tool, which I was just showing you. This is when you can make it transparent and then write right on it. This is really great for annotating and things like that. Here he's snapshotting, so he's got his part of his presentation that he's done. He snapshotted it to pause it, but yet he's still teaching over there. Okay. He's also can record certain parts and then send them on to like in an email if someone missed class or something like that. So that's another really cool feature. Okay. I could go on, but I know that you guys are strapped for time and I want to make sure that there's time for questions. So do we have any questions at this point? It's pretty simple. I would say, you know, it probably took me 20 to 30 minutes to like plug it in and get my setup going. And then it probably took me a couple of days to just tweak it to make it what I wanted to be. And as you can see, it's not perfect. I didn't want it to be perfect because I wanted you guys to see that it doesn't, you know, it's not super hard. And the other thing is that it has taken me a little bit to get used to, as I said, to get used to bringing in the stuff. And then they just did a software update. So that was something I had to sort of relearn in the last week or so. But what questions can I answer for you?
I think the last time we had met, and maybe it's because it was version 1, you mentioned this was version 2. I don't think we could pull in everything that we would maybe want to work on. So it seems to me that has updated, like we can pull in PDFs and Google Drive files and everything like that, correct?
Yep, completely. You are exactly correct. We were very excited about the new release because when we first did the demo, there was some limits on what you could bring in.
Thank you.
If I'm understanding this correctly, like if you were working in a program with a student and you pulled it up on there, they would be able to see what they're doing as well as what you're doing, right? Am I thinking that right?
Well, the student wouldn't have an eGlass. So they would be seeing what you're doing on here.
Okay.
If the student were, which they're not, but if they were with you, like if you see some other sort of marketing videos of eGlass, you can see the students coming up and writing on the board, and that would be in a typical classroom. But the student is not interacting with the document.
Right.
But if you were, but let's think about that for a second.
Okay. Yeah.
If you were like editing something together with the student, like a writing assignment or whatever, if you had that in Google Slides and you were working with them together, you could have your Google slide up here. They're doing some edits on their end. You're helping them and doing some annotating and edits on your side of the eGlass. So I suppose we're getting closer to what you were kind of thinking. Is that
okay? So all right, thanks.
Okay. Anybody else? Just a little insight. We did do a test run with another e-school this summer, actually here in Ohio. They wanted to test drive 2 of them over summer break for the summer school program. And that went well. And they just ordered 4 more for their next round of teachers. So that's, you know, someone doing similar to you in your state and they've had some success. I wanted to share that. Yeah, Melissa just said on the chat, this looks really cool. I think math teachers would benefit the most. We're hearing the same thing. We're hearing the same thing. But really, you know, when I gave the example of English teachers, language teachers, art teachers, as you can imagine, virtually teaching art like has to be hard. And so this allows really that connection, that visual connection, along with the teacher being able to identify what's the main thing, you know. But yeah, the math, we get great feedback from math teachers, and actually I can share a couple of videos with you of teacher testimonials. One of them is from a math teacher named Mr. Stewart.